I inherited Grandpa's house, but discovered my neighbors built on top of my property. Can you believe I discovered that my neighbors built $2 million houses on top of my property? And the most incredible part, when they found out the truth at the condo meeting, their faces were priceless. I never imagined that inheriting my grandfather's house would turn into a millionaire legal war. But wait until you hear how my grandpa, even after death, managed to get the perfect revenge on these opportunists. Stay until the end because this story has a plot twist you won't believe. The unexpected inheritance. When my grandfather, Sebastian, died last year, I inherited his old farm in the interior of Sao Paulo. It was 150 hectares that had belonged to our family for over 80 years. I lived in Sao Paulo capital, worked as an engineer, and only visited the property during childhood vacations. Honestly, I didn't even know exactly where the land boundaries began and ended. Grandpa always said, "Boy, this land will be yours someday. Take good care of it because many people will try to take it from you." At the time, I thought it was just talk from a nostalgic old man, you know? How wrong I was. After the funeral, I decided to go there to organize things, sell some old furniture, and decide what to do with that huge property I couldn't afford to maintain. When I arrived at the dirt road that led to the house, something was very strange. There was a brand new electronic gate where before there was only a wire fence. A shiny golden sign announced Campos Verdes Residential, high-end houses starting at 1.8 million RS. My heart raced. What the hell was that? I passed through the gate explaining to the security guard that I was the grandson of the former owner. He looked at me suspiciously but let me in. And then, folks, that's when my life turned upside down. Where my grandfather's cornfields and pastures used to be, there were now 47 gigantic houses, each with a pool, gourmet barbecue area, and landscaped garden. An entire luxury condominium had been built on my property. I stopped the car in the middle of the street, completely in shock. How was this possible? Who authorized this construction, and where was my grandfather's house? I kept driving until I found the original house, which was now squeezed between two modern mansions. It looked like a dollhouse in the middle of a surreal scenario. Donna Maria, my grandfather's neighbor for 30 years, saw me arriving and came running. "Thank God you showed up," she said with tears in her eyes. "Your grandfather spent the last 2 years fighting with these builders. They said they had bought the land, but Mr. Sebastian swore he never sold anything. He even called the police a few times, but nobody believed him." My head was exploding with anger and confusion. How was an entire condominium approved and built without the landowner knowing? And why didn't anyone tell me during the estate process? Something was very, very wrong there. The next day, I went straight to the city's property registry office. I needed to understand how 47 houses were legally built on my property. The employee, after consulting the system for almost an hour, brought me devastating news. According to official records, my grandfather had sold 75% of the farm to Campos Verdes Construction Company in 2019. "That's impossible," I shouted. "My grandfather died in 2023 and never told me about any sale." The employee showed the documents, signature, notarized, everything apparently in order. But I knew my grandfather. He would never sell that land. It was the love of his life. Something was rotten in this story. I sought a lawyer specializing in real estate law. Dr. Roberto analyzed the documents and raised an eyebrow. "This signature looks strange," he murmured, "and what a coincidence. The sale was recorded exactly the week your grandfather was hospitalized with pneumonia. Let's investigate this more deeply." While the lawyer worked, I returned to Grandpa's house to look for clues. The place was exactly as he left it, papers scattered on the office desk, old bills, family photos. But it was in his bedroom that I found something that would change everything. Inside a shoebox under the bed, there was a letter with my name. "My dear grandson, if you're reading this, it's because they tried to steal our land. I knew this would happen." My hands trembled as I read. My grandfather explained that in recent years, several men in suits had appeared offering money for the property. When he refused, the threats and intimidation began. But the most important part was at the end. In the safe behind the living room painting, you'll find the original deeds and documents that prove our ownership. I also kept all the recordings of conversations with these bandits. The safe password is your birthday, 1507195. Use this evidence to recover our land. Don't let these thieves win. I ran to the living room, and indeed, there was a small safe hidden behind the rural landscape painting. I entered the password with my heart pounding. Inside, a flash drive, the original deeds from 1943 when my great-grandfather bought the land, and something that left me speechless: signed contracts between the construction company and City Hall public officials. My grandfather had discovered a gigantic corruption scheme. The construction company was bribing people at City Hall to forge sales documents. It wasn't just with me, they had done this with other rural property owners in the region. A real estate mafia had been operating for years in the city, and my grandpa had proof of everything. Preparing the counterattack. With this explosive evidence in hand, Dr. Roberto was euphoric. He said, "This is pure gold. We have document forgery, organized crime, active and passive corruption. This construction company will pay dearly for this." But he advised me not to show all the cards at once. He said, "Let's use your grandfather's strategy. Let them feel secure before the final attack." First, we filed a repossession action based on the original deeds. The construction company responded with their expensive lawyers, claiming they had bought the land in good faith. The company director, a man named Carlos Eduardo, even gave an interview to the local newspaper saying I was an opportunist trying to take advantage of a legal situation. Meanwhile, I hired a private detective to investigate further. What we discovered was even worse. Campos Verdes had a history of 12 similar cases in other cities. Always the same pattern. They forged documents of rural properties, built luxury condominiums, and then claimed good faith in the purchase. A true criminal scheme that had already stolen hundreds of hectares. But the best was yet to come. Remember the flash drive Grandpa left? There were hours of audio recordings where the construction company executives talked openly about the scheme. In one of them, Carlos Eduardo said literally, "The old man is stubborn, but when he dies, the grandson won't even know the land was bigger. We'll keep everything and still profit millions." With all this evidence, we could have gone straight to the police. But I wanted justice the way my grandfather planned, in front of everyone, publicly humiliating these criminals. Dr. Roberto suggested a brilliant plan. As a resident and legitimate owner, I had the right to participate in the condominium meetings, and the next assembly would be in 15 days. During those 2 weeks, I discreetly visited some residents. Most were honest people who had bought the houses, believing everything was legal. Dona Rosa, a 67-year-old retiree, cried when she learned about the possible situation. She said, "I spent all my retirement on this house. If I have to leave, where will I live?" That's when I decided my revenge would be against the criminals, not the victims. The honest residents would be protected, but the construction company and its accomplices would pay dearly for all the crimes committed. I arrived at the assembly with a folder full of documents and a portable projector. The meeting took place in the condominium's party room, which, ironically, was where my grandfather's old corral used to be. Carlos Eduardo presided over the table, arrogant as always. When he saw me enter, he made a disgusted face. "What are you doing here?" he asked loudly for everyone to hear. "Good evening, neighbors. I'm Joao Silva, and I am the true owner of this land where you built your houses." A murmur ran through the room. Carlos Eduardo laughed nervously. "Gentlemen, don't listen to this opportunist. We bought this property legally and have all the documents." "What documents?" I asked, turning on the projector. The first image that appeared on the wall was the original deed from 1943. This is the original deed of Santa Clara Farm, registered in my great-grandfather Antonio Silva's name. I showed the property boundaries on the old map. As you can see, this land was never sold by my family. Carlos Eduardo's face began to change. He didn't expect me to have access to the original documents, but I was just getting started. "Now I'll show you how you forged the sale." I placed side by side my grandfather's real signature from old documents with the fake signature from the sale contract. They were completely different. The audience was in shock. Some people were starting to stand up, others were taking photos of the evidence, but the real bomb came when I played the first audio. "The old man is stubborn, but when he dies, the grandson won't even know the land was bigger."
Carlos Eduardo's voice echoed through the room in total silence. "That's a fake," he screamed, completely out of control. But I had more. I played another audio where he instructed City Hall employees on how to alter the records, and another where he laughed, saying that these hill countries would never discover the scam. With each recording, more residents looked at him with disgust and indignation. The villain's downfall. When I finished the presentation, the room exploded. Residents were shouting, demanding explanations. Some ladies were crying, worried about their houses. Carlos Eduardo tried to run away, but 2 residents blocked the door. "You're going to explain this properly," shouted the syndic. That's when I played my last card. Calm down, folks. I didn't come here to harm you who bought the houses in good faith. I came to do justice. I explained that I had already contacted the federal police and the public prosecutor's office. The construction company would be investigated for organized crime, document forgery, and corruption.